Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill, and today I have Stephanie Banks. Stephanie is a sought after intuitive channel, a mentor, and a guide, and she helps people connect on the soul level. When her mother's dementia made verbal communication impossible, Stephanie actually found ways to communicate with her mother's soul, and that was kind of the beginning of this channeling journey for her. And so what she does as a conscious channel is she's the vessel to receive the messages, as well as being the guide to really provide some depth and context for that information that's coming through her, to help her clients. And so what she uses her keen sense of humor, love, and compassion to join her clients in their spiritual experience. She is not only a best-selling author, but also a TEDx speaker, and she's involved with so many charities and organizations doing good things in the world. I'm so happy to welcome you today, Stephanie.
Hey, Jill, thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Me too. And I mean, we're going to be diving into channeling and parenting and communicating with our kids' souls and just talking all about how we can add this beautiful, deep, helpful facet of life to our communication with our kids by communicating with them on a soul level. So can we maybe start there? Like, what is a soul level and how do we communicate with it? Let's just get the basic groundwork going for anyone listening.
Okay. Well, I'll be explaining things in a way that makes sense to me that I have learned from mentors that has really landed with me. So the soul, as I think about it, is sort of the student aspect of ourselves that returns for multiple earthly experiences and perhaps more than earthly experiences as well, to learn how to get closer to agape, unconditional love, this beautiful creator source, godlike love. And as we are souls giving ourselves different experiences, one of the biggest, most significant ways that we grow is through our relationships. And and as we know, our relationships can be complicated and sticky and challenging, as well as beautiful and profound and loving and transformational. So it's all of that. And what I have found in my work as a professional intuitive channel is that channeling, which is just connecting on the soul level, as you said, peeling away the layers of what is the fifth dimension, like this, or the third dimensional world through our senses and going into more of a fifth dimensional experience, which is unity consciousness, all love. There is no true separation between you and me. We are just brought up to believe this. And when it comes to our children, part of why we feel so deeply for them is we know that there is this, it's not just that we're their moms or their parents. We have this deep connection to them that will be forever because as souls, we, I believe, agreed to come together to have this exact experience, to play out these roles so that we can grow, so that we can learn. And what we learned very quickly, or at least what I learned repeatedly, is that I am actually not my children's teacher. They are mine. They are my teachers. And if I'm open with, open about that and willing to learn, then these dynamics and these conversations and these connections and exchanges that we can have can really elevate beyond, I don't want that for breakfast, or why do you make me go to school, to really coming to understand what their needs are as a soul being. They came here to this journey, to this planet, to have specific things experienced and accomplished. And I love to tap into, what is that all about? What are you here for? Where am I in your way? How do I get out of your way? What is it that you most desire? Because once you peel away those personality layers, you get to really what's meaningful. And that's what I'm interested in doing with my own kids and also helping people do with theirs.
Mm, that's such important work. And I think that it's so nice that we're in this time now where that is something that we're thinking about, right? As parents and as people raising little people, that we're not just like, there's so much more respect and value, I think, placed on kids now as it should be. And so I really love that. I'm curious to know, do you work with mostly adults or do you work directly with the kids? Like, what does your work look like when you're dealing with clients?
It's both. Oftentimes, it will be the parents that come to me and they will say, I'm really having a struggle with my child of any age. And sometimes it's grown children. I don't understand why we're having so many roadblocks. We can't understand each other. We're having a difficult time getting along. What is going on? So I will channel from the soul perspective of their child what is going on, what their needs are, where things are, where they can be paved a little bit more smoothly. And oftentimes as well, I will have a parent say, you know what, this was so useful to me. Do you think that you could channel for Charlie and he or she might be open to that? And we talk about, yeah, what's Charlie's readiness for this? And do they, I have a way of making this very relatable no matter what the age is, because I can explain it in different ways so that kids can really grasp where they are in this. But yeah, I've gone to schools before and channeled for students, for kids. I do it on Zoom quite a bit. I've channeled for lots and lots of adolescents and younger children too, just adapting the language to something that will be resonant and relevant to them.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like they're already so much closer to this as truth than we are. So it must feel just like a lot more open for most of them, which is cool. I know that my kids are really open as well, but don't have the language for it yet. But yeah, that's amazing. And so so I'm curious because you do this work, you are like this channel with practice and experience, and you know how to do it. If a mom's listening and is like, okay, that sounds super cool. I'd love to be able to sort of like get in my kid's head or get in their soul a little bit and understand like, are there tools that we can use day to day that can help us? Or is this something that's like um best done with the support of an intuitive channel like yourself? Like what do those options look like?
I think it's lovely to come at it from both perspectives. I think it's really useful to jumpstart things if you can have someone professional do a reading for you that resonates and that helps you to connect at first to that soul essence of your child. Oftentimes that just sets you off and running, really. Like most of the time parents will say to me, "Oh my gosh, that sounds exactly like this child. That sounds exactly how I feel them to be, their energy, even sometimes things that they would say." And so having that piece of, okay, I already know you. I can trust what I know of you because we do know our kids' souls. And then we get busy and then we get distracted and then we get overwhelmed. And so we come away from that direction of connecting with them from that foundational place, but we can always come back to it. And I will always say this till my last breath, everybody can learn to channel. And it's a wonderful way for you to learn by doing so with your child. And what you need is a little bit of peace and quiet. That's why it's hard to come by.
Yeah,
You can't
totally.
be in the thick of the tantrums and the screaming and be like, I'm just going to channel what your soul needs in this moment. Let me go to my Zen place. I mean, you can go ahead and try that, but I haven't found that to be so useful. Um, we need our own practice, whether that's a spiritual practice, a meditative practice, a practice of being outside in nature is something very important to me. Just letting energy settle for a little bit, connecting to our breath, letting our hearts open, scanning for what is true rather than what is being activated and ignited simply from our emotional body. These are all very important things. We cannot channel clearly if we're from the frantic, frenetic energy or if we're being reactive. So there's no perfection to this. You don't have to be a perfect meditator to channel or to connect to your child's soul, but you do want to get your energy as settled and as peaceful and as quiet as possible. And oftentimes for moms, that happens in a closet with a closed door.
Yes. Or it doesn't happen, which is why we reach out to people like you who can get there faster for us because it is
Yeah.
like not our season to have quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually going through this journey of learning how to strengthen my intuition and channeling. And
Mhm.
it's so difficult. Even when I have the quiet during the day when the kids are at school, I find it really difficult to hold focus. And I feel like you said, practice and just making sure that you're coming to this work, if you're practicing this work from a place of regulation. That's
Mhm.
like, and it's so hard for moms. That's a whole other conversation. But it makes me think of how our energy and our kids' energy really plays into that regulation or dysregulation. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your understanding of energy, because it took me a long time to sort of understand energy as anything other than like, oh, I've got lots of energy in my body today. So
Mm.
could you give us, like, for the moms who are interested but not well immersed in this sort of world, like, what is energy? Why can we feel our kids' energy, and how can it impact us in our parenting?
Okay,
I
let's
know.
try that.
Give me all the info, but the Coles.
I mean, what is energy? Well, it's everything, right? Energy it's what we are. We just happen to be encased in beautiful skin and hair and to have cells. But the way we move about in the world actually does put out a certain cadence or vibration, and it varies. So if my self-care is awesome, then I am adding to a vibration of love and of kindness and compassion and deep appreciation. And if my self-care is poor and I am feeling and I don't have enough sleep and it's just really hard for me to get through each moment, chances are higher that I am adding to an energy of intensity, of density, of constriction. And we all know what it feels like, even if we don't have the words to describe it. When, say, you go into the grocery line, you might be feeling perfectly fine, just ticking through your list and figuring out what you're making for dinner. And then something happens in the line, and you all of a sudden feel really icky, like you got to get out of there or grumpy all of a sudden. And a lot of times we are picking up on the energetic states of others. So it could be the person in front of you, could be the person behind you, could be someone who's already left, but we are leaving aspects of our energy field, if you want to kind of take it into the really global wide space, all the time. And one good practice that I teach people how to do is at the end of the day, if you have just a couple minutes for meditation, close your eyes and imagine yourself going back through your day and reclaiming those aspects of your energy that you might have, oops, scattered. So maybe it was a harsh word here, maybe it was overly generous over there. We don't know, but we know when we do it because it leaves a little bit of a feeling of lack or depletion or frustration or irritability. So we can go back and gather up those beautiful aspects, bring them back to ourselves and our hearts so that we can use them differently. And these are all just examples of how energy can be perceived, because that's what it is. It's on a perceptive level. Even if we can't point to someone and say, you have bad energy, don't ever do that. There's no such thing as bad energy. But there is stuff that feels dense and heavy, sometimes dark, and there's stuff that feels light and joyful and vivacious and effervescent. And we're not all one way all of the time. We meander in and out because this is the nature of the human experience, but we're all bringing an energy of our own contribution to each interaction. And knowing that lets us be more self-aware so we can choose what we want to contribute.
Hmm, thank you. That was beautiful. I had a lady on the podcast. I don't know if it'll air before yours or after, but she gave this example of like picking energy off of our kids at the end of the day, just like
Mhm.
getting rid of the yuck from the day. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love when we can bring in this idea into our parenting and help our kids manage their energy once we sort of learn about it. And I wonder how did this sort of woo woo stuff that opened up to you, how did it change your parenting? Like, what does it look like? How old were your kids when you sort of opened to this knowing, and what did that look like?
Yeah. Um, when you said that about your previous guest, I'm remembering how when my kids were younger, they're older now, they're older teens. Um, they used to come home from school and they would say, Mom, you need to sage me. Please just smudge me. And I would take my sage and I would burn it all around them. And I would always say, we're clearing you of any energy that isn't yours, anything you might have picked up in your day that doesn't feel good and is not for you. We're just clearing it away. And we all would walk away from that practice feeling lighter. I mean, their shoulders would come down, they would exhale more deeply. And this was elementary school. These are young kids who are like, ick, something got all over me. I
Yes.
need it cleared. So there's lots of practices that you can do like that with your kids. You can get spray if you want, lavender, you can use essential oils, just whatever shifts and changes your mood is likely to do so for them and clear it. Also, when my kids showed interest in channeling, because they were young when I started doing this professionally, I would say that my oldest was in fifth grade, probably. Then I have two more younger than him. But when they started to show interest in channeling, I would get them their own pendulum. And I would show them how the pendulum can swing to show them a yes or a no. And I would show them there's like a little letter grid, really beautiful, that has letters on it. And it can spell out words or names if you want. Not a Ouija board, just to be clear, because some people get really weirded out by that. No, it's just letters for your pendulum to go to and spell. So with real basic, simple language, I would show them how to use their pendulum. And I remember my youngest was probably like 5 years old, and he was holding his pendulum, concentrating really hard and saying, what's for dinner tonight? I was standing at the door listening so that I could make the exact thing that the pendulum said was for dinner. But these are just joyful tools for me. I wanted them to experiment with them and see it's not important that that be what they use, but I also don't want it to be something that they think is weird or to be avoided. Just give it a try. So we have very positive memories of that.
Mm, I love that. That's amazing. My kids are starting to get interested in like tarot cards too. So I bought this
Awesome.
little tarot deck for them of like kid messages, which is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when we can introduce these things. And like, I remember when I was growing up, it would have been so taboo. It would have been like dark and evil and yeah, skeptic all over, and it's just, whether or not you are someone who practices this or believes in this, it's always nice to give our kids the opportunity not to pass judgment on anything, right? So yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
because you don't know what's going to feel peaceful and beautiful to you.
Yeah.
So you try a bunch of things. And oracle cards, I also have tons of decks of them, and my kids would love to spread them across the entire floor and then just kind of go around and see which ones had the energy that they felt. Pick it, turn it over, see what it was, and see how it resonated that day. That's another wonderful tool. I'm glad you brought that up. And then nature is one of the best channeling spiritual connection tools I know of, because the animals are our messengers. So too are the plants. And we can hear them. We can feel their communication if we're attuned. And children are attuned. If we don't interrupt them, they will be hugging the trees, talking to the trees, understanding the animals. So that's something I really encourage people to nurture as well.
Yeah. Animals specifically is one that I think we allow to go a little bit further into childhood, typically. I think a lot of parents, at least in my generation and people I see now, would stop the tree hugging behavior and the talking to the plants behavior sooner than they would stop the talking to the animals behavior. So um I love that those are both things that we can be on the lookout for and understand, like, oh, this is maybe something more. Like, let's let this blossom and grow and see.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, my son even does it with babies, like
yeah,
kids who can't talk yet.
that's
Yeah,
right.
he's really connected that way. But I just this has all been so informative and interesting and such a wonderful explanation of what like at the core level, the soul and the energy and the way that we move and how we can support it and dive in. And before we wrap and I give people the ways that they can work with you and follow you and learn more, I wonder if there's anything that feels important to share for the moms that we haven't touched on yet?
Mm, I just would want every parent to know that they can trust themselves. We are really guided away from that. Women in particular, um, and it creates a whole lot of internal chaos and dis-ease. So from gestation to birth, I was a doula and a lactation consultant, and so I really believe women empowered to trust themselves are changing the world. And I really encourage you, as to really believe in you. We're going to make mistakes, but we can always go back and clean those up. Trust your knowing of your child and your children. Trust your knowing of yourself. And sometimes it might seem like you're the only one maybe to support that. And that's not exactly true, because you have a whole energetic team that is supporting you and guiding you and cheering you on, but trust yourself. That's what I would want to share.
Thank you. I think I needed to hear that message today, and probably many of the moms did as well. So if this is landing and someone's listening and just thinking like, how can I get more of Stephanie? I want to follow along. I want to learn, or I need to talk to my kid's soul because I'm so confused and there's all this, uncertainty and unknowing. How can they work with you and get into your world?
Yeah, they can go to my website. It is soulinsight.com. I teach classes on channeling. I have also private sessions, and I do group readings as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's my absolute pleasure to have you on. And I look forward to continuing to learn from you as well. I'll be over there with some of those learning to channel classes for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, Jill. I look forward to sharing with you. Thank you.